poster child of what it means to be a Nepo baby. From his photography career to his hot sauce endeavors, I feel like if you filmed a sitcom based off of Brooklyn Beckham's life, you would end up with a product similar to Schitt's Creek, like the characters in that sitcom. I don't know, there is something enjoyable to me about a person who is just so perfectly in their lane, so stereotypically themselves. And this feud to me in general is very much grounded in rich people problems with a slight twist of boy mom behavior potentially, so it is quite stereotypical. It is very cliche mother-in-law, daughter-in-law type beef, mixed in with a bit of like brotherly feuding as well. So I don't know, I'm excited to get into it. I always love when a feud is just exactly what it presents itself to be. There's not a ton of complex layers we need to peel back here. Like, it just seems very straightforward.
They skipped David Beckham's 50th birthday, then renewed vows without the family. That is not a busy schedule, that is a message. By the end, you will see how a wedding rumor turned into a full-blown family fracture, and why the internet keeps blaming the same person every time. If your partner says, "I will always choose you," and your family takes it as an attack, who is the problem? Them or you? They keep selling this like a cute, stupid, rich people squabble. Nepo baby fails upward, billionaire bride comes in, iconic mom gets boy mom allegations, and the internet gets popcorn. That framing is not harmless, it is a trap. Because once you treat a family fracture like a sitcom, you stop asking what actually breaks people apart. You do not look for patterns, you look for characters. The spoiled American wife, the controlling famous mom, the helpless son. It's a script that runs itself. And the moment you accept that script, every detail becomes proof. A dress becomes a declaration, a caption becomes a threat, an empty seat becomes betrayal. Nobody needs facts anymore because the roles are already cast. So listen to how easily this gets labeled simple. That word is doing work. It turns a messy emotional story into an easy verdict. The real feud is not between people, it is over who controls the narrative. Once the internet picks roles, truth becomes optional.
Nicola Peltz. She was born January 9th, 1995, and this makes her a Capricorn. She was born in New York. By the way, when I was researching Nicola, I was like, why did I think she was 23? I was so shocked to find out that she is older than me, because in my mind, for whatever reason, she was like 22, 23. I always felt like I was older than her, or yeah, I don't know. That really surprised me for some reason. Her mom, Claudia Hefner, was a prominent model in the 80s. I know what you're thinking. Claudia Hefner, a model. Is there any relation to Hugh? There actually isn't. Their last names are spelled slightly different. And yeah, even though she, was prominent around that same time, 80s and 90s, there is no relation there. And then Nicola's dad is Nelson Peltz, who is a billionaire. So, right off the bat, I feel like she's won the lottery. She's won the global lottery. Model mom giving her all the banging genetics, and then billionaire dad filling up her pocket.
Here is what the public does with Nicola before she even speaks. It turns her into a symbol. Billionaire daughter equals entitled. Beautiful equals calculated. Confident equals cruel. And once that filter is on, everything she does gets interpreted as manipulation. That is why this feud keeps snapping back to her, even when the tension later looks broader than mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law. People want a single villain, and a billionaire is easy to resent. But there is another layer. Wealth does not only create arrogance, it creates a different tolerance level for chaos. If you grew up in a world where professionals are supposed to deliver, you do not cope with dysfunction quietly. You push, you demand, you get blunt. Then the bluntness becomes the headline. So the question is not, is she a brat? The question is, why does the public need her to be one? Because the story is cleaner that way. And clean stories are usually wrong. Stereotypes are cheaper than understanding.
His parents are, of course, the absolutely iconic Victoria Beckham, aka Posh Spice from the Spice Girls, and former footballer and captain of the England football team, David Beckham, although I would argue that he is more well known for being the muse of the 2002 critically acclaimed hit box office smash movie Bend It Like Beckham, and his godfather is Elton John. I mean, what iconic parents. If England didn't have a royal family, this would be the royal family. I feel like this is the non-monarch royal family. You have two worldwide, international, famous parents, incredibly talented, incredibly successful. I guess all of that talent and success must cancel out a little bit, because I do have to say, to me at least, Brooklyn Beckham has to be one of the least talented people on this planet. And I'm not even saying that to be shady, okay? This is not a snide. I think that as a Nepo baby with these two powerhouse parents, it is his God-given right to be mediocre.
Brooklyn is mocked for being mediocre, and he is never allowed to be ordinary. That is the pressure nobody wants to sit with, because it sounds like sympathy for a rich person, but psychologically, it is brutal. When your parents are icons, your identity becomes a comparison before it becomes a choice. Every hobby turns into a headline, every misstep turns into a meme. And if you are the eldest, you also carry the unspoken expectation of being the example. So what happens when someone like that falls hard for a partner who feels like safety? The relationship stops being just love, it becomes refuge. And refuge creates loyalty that looks extreme from the outside. That is why, later, choosing your spouse can feel like finally choosing yourself. And to the family, it can look like betrayal. Same behavior, different emotional meaning. This is how a marriage turns into a line in the sand. If you were Brooklyn, who would you choose and why? Love feels pure until it gets tested publicly.
The first wedding planners that were hired to organize this wedding, they quit. It's unclear why, nobody has said why, but they leave about 6 weeks before the date of the wedding. So, you know, not amazing, especially for a wedding of this size. So the Peltz family hired 2 planners from Plan Design Events who were meant to kind of take over the planning and save the day. 9 days after these 2 are hired, the Peltz family actually terminate their contract because in that 1 week that they had been hired, they hadn't booked a single vendor, they hadn't finalized any agreements that were in progress, and they also missed multiple scheduled meetings with the Peltz family. The Peltzes felt like they'd been a bit misled by the planners, you know, that their capacity to handle a wedding of this size was maybe not there. Nicola's dad, Nelson, does end up taking these 2 planners to court because he says he didn't get the $159,000 deposit back and they were terminated failing to deliver, so he, in his mind, should have got that deposit back.
6 weeks before a mega wedding, the planners quit. The replacement gets fired 9 days later. Now you have a countdown, cameras, 600 guests, and 2 families whose names are global brands. That is not wedding stress. That is a pressure cooker. This is where control becomes the real story. When things feel unstable, people tighten their grip. They hide bad news, they manage optics, they start treating each other like liabilities instead of relatives. And once that mindset enters a family system, trust collapses fast. You can see how easily this becomes Nicola is difficult. But the more interesting question is, what does it do to a couple when the wedding becomes crisis management? Because you do not walk away from that feeling refreshed. You walk away hyper alert. If the marriage starts inside chaos, the couple learns a lesson: protect the unit. That lesson can become love, or it can become isolation. Weddings do not create cracks, they reveal them under floodlights. The ceremony ends, but the power struggle survives.
Brooklyn and Nicola renew their wedding vows, and you know, 200 guests are invited. It's a big event. Is it too early? I was like, they only got married 3 years ago. I don't know. What are the rules on vow renewal? But it's very apparent that none of the Beckhams are there. David, Victoria, none of the siblings, no, not even Harper, who Brooklyn always, her birthday posts are always a little bit more heartfelt than the ones for his brothers. Not even Harper is there, okay? They are all missing, and the rumor is that they weren't even invited. Nicola and Brooklyn didn't didn't even ask them to be there, which is, again, it seems very cold. At this time, there is a lot of, like I said, bad press surrounding Nicola. She's kind of getting the Meghan Markle treatment. Brooklyn's comments are absolutely flooded with people saying, go back to your family, a good wife for you wouldn't come between you and your parents. Brooklyn, your parents miss you. The parasocial relationships are going crazy. This prompts one of Nicola's friends to kind of flat back in the Instagram comments. She writes, I love seeing people who spend years in therapy over toxic family ties coming here and judging someone who actually had the guts to walk away. Everyone's been kissing the Beckhams' ass forever, and Nicola was the first to stand up for her values since she couldn't care less about their fame or money. The moment they couldn't control everything, they lost it and started planting fake press to make her look bad in the public eye. I've known her for years. She's genuine, humble, and refuses to live in a fake world. So if you don't know the real story, don't come here talking crap. And Brooklyn is a grown man who can defend himself just fine. If he walked away, it's because he knows exactly the environment he grew up in. Calling Nicola controlling is just lazy. She's not holding anyone hostage. Brooklyn is a grown man who's fully capable of making his own choices. He is an adult who's perfectly aware of the life he wants, and he's living it. So, two things. One, this is the first time we've actually had someone reliable, not a mystery source, not TMZ. This is the first time we've had someone in close proximity to these people actually come out and say, yeah, there is drama between them. Yeah, they are feuding. No, it's not because Nicola's a brat. It's because of the Beckhams.
This is the moment the story stops being drama and becomes a public line in the sand. A vow renewal 3 years in with a crowd and 0 Beckhams. If that is accurate, it is not a misunderstanding. It is a boundary with an audience. Then comes the most revealing part. The friend reframes the whole conflict as toxic family ties and control. You cannot treat that as proven truth because it is still one side speaking, but you also cannot pretend it is nothing. It tells you what this fight is about in their world. Not dresses, not parties, not gossip. Power and independence. And notice what the internet does immediately. It infantilizes the man and demonizes the woman. That pattern is older than this feud. It is the easiest story to sell because it removes male accountability and turns the wife into the villain. Brooklyn is an adult. If he walked away, it was a choice.